everyone. I hope everyone is doing well on what I am recording on a Friday afternoon. There's a few things that I want to bring to your attention via a few conversations that I've been having. I took the day off of my campaign yesterday to go to the doctor. It turns out that I have a cataract, potentially, and I don't mean the one you drive. Anyway, the optometrist is booked. The reason that I share this moment with you is not for sympathy. It is because of the conversation that I had with my doctor. Now, I've had other conversations with him regarding the struggles and the challenges facing healthcare professionals, and every conversation that I have grows in scope. Now, in particular, we were discussing the lack of proper, time-appropriate, compassionate healthcare for patients. Additionally, we discussed the physicians' frustrations regarding their treatment within the system and the government and the private-public partnerships that they're really bound to. Now, the conversation was actually quite enlightening and really uncovered a few things. Where our social ills are concerned, the treatment and cure that he prescribed both surprised me and confirmed my firm belief in the methods I'm proposing. So let me break it down for you. The government strategy implemented for general practitioners is based on this model that I'm going to outline. Number one, a GP makes approximately $39 a visit. This is based on a 14-minute time frame. If the doctor goes over the 14-minute mark, but the longer he stays with the patient, the more capital is added to the original $39. Okay, so at a glance, this would seem an effective method of offsetting the doctor's time spent with the increase in capital. But this method falls way short of a holistic benefit for both the doctor and the patient. And here's why. The amount accumulated by the increasing of the original $39 can never equate to the money a doctor makes by turning over his patients every 14 minutes. So basically, what the doctor has to do, if he wants to make the most amount of money, is get you in and get you out in 14 minutes. As a matter of fact, when I went to the doctor and I stepped up to the reception desk, I named 3 things that I needed looked at. And the receptionist said, "Oh, you can only ask for 2. I was like, what is this? This isn't Tijuana. I'm not bartering here. And it's 3 very simple things that I could probably express in 30 seconds. Regardless, when I went into the doctor, I told him I was telling him all 3, and he was fine with that. He's a great guy and a great doctor. Anyway, this plan of the 14-minute model is the failed plan that the government has constructed and implemented. And this plan simply does not work. And we see the results of that every time we go to the doctor. We're ushered in quick and we're ushered out just as quick. And a lot of times we don't even receive the kind of care we need, or sometimes no care at all. But what the government is telling us, and I think what media is telling us and everything else, and what they report with a great deal of braggadocio and false claims, that this model is of a tremendous effect and it's working just fine. Well, that's not how my doctor feels, and it's not how he's felt, at least for the last year since I've been going to him. He's a very open guy, very honest guy, and of course an academic and well-read. So basically, whatever you're hearing about the system, your eyes do not fail you. What you see and what you feel is necessarily the truth. But of course, governments don't lie to you, do they? So what is the consequence of applying this pointless and harm-inducing plan? Well, basically, human nature, and even that of a doctor, is to gravitate toward the money, right? They would rather gain what they can and put their attention on how much money they're going to get, because in some respects they have to, and I'll go into some of that in a minute. But what that does is it takes away the care of the infirm. It has to, because they can't spend the amount of time nor give, laser pointed focus to the individual in the office, because their mind is always on the next dollar. So what ends up happening is that there is a lack of connection and concern for the patient that informs ultimately the doctor's consciousness and unconscious decisions. And it certainly pollutes the Hippocratic Oath, and it leaves the patient without proper concern and medical care. So this is the problem, and this is the model that's proposed, and it's simply not working. But before I get to the doctor's my doctor's simple and simpatico solution, I want to mention one more thing. When I spoke regarding the private-public partnership above, I am speaking of the merger between government and corporations. It is assumed in Canada that we have a pure form of socialized medicine. But did you know that both TELUS and Loblaws own, lease, and increase their capital gain and shareholding by renting the internal computer systems used in the greater portion of these walk-in clinics and clinics in general? Your phone company and your agricultural sector are now your care provider. How can that be? Why is that? Well, it's pretty simple, because there's a lot of money in it. Now, whether or not you're predisposed to applaud the story of true capitalism at work and its successes, its effectiveness is not being met out in this regard. Where it comes to corporations and stakeholders and shareholders, above all else, they only really want one thing. And what is that? They want increased capital for the least possible expense. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Province-wide, the Alberta government has integrated its otherwise fractionated computer systems into one homogeneous network. The benefits in this case are easy to apprehend. The system both optimizes and expedites the care of its patients. Now, where the government's concerned, I will give credit where credit is due. I think they have done the right thing and a good thing in this case. Now, with private sector involvement where general practitioners are concerned, however, the expense that could lead to wholesale benefit for the doctor and the patient alike will not be entertained due to the stakeholder, the shareholder, and the corporate owner. It's basically too expensive for their indulgences. Now, if that wasn't enough, and it rarely is enough, there is a 30% rental fee levied on the GPs for the utilization of these systems. My GP was quick to point out that all of these factors bearing down on physicians is making many of them leave the province. So what does this do to the doctor? Basically, it puts an increased patient load on the remainder of these physicians, and that produces, of course, contempt in the system, and then that spills over onto the patient. It's basic psychology. Now, for the patient, what does it do? Well, it increases our wait time, and it decreases the proper and expedient and compassionate care that ultimately leads us to frustration, cynicism. It's quite a conundrum, isn't it? And there's another factor to this as well, which I'm sure, well, I certainly didn't know this. TELUS now has privatized TELUS medical clinics. Okay, well, not exactly privatized. The doctor now gets to keep the total $39 per visit that is guaranteed by the government, which, because a private enterprise is getting government money, you could consider that socialism. I mean, if all of us couldn't be so lucky, right? And so when you step into one of these TELUS care facilities, immediately, before you do anything or see any doctor, there is a $5,000 sign-up fee for all prospective patients. Now, you might get a free massage. Well, not a free one. You're paying $5,000. Free massage, I don't know, maybe a toothbrush to take home with you. But after that gross expense, and maybe after a few clerical expenses, the doctor takes home the majority of that $5,000. Now, the way my doctor put it directly to me is that he has around 500 patients that he sees. So if you did the math on that, if you took 500 patients at $500,000 each, the doctor would receive $2.5 million before he ever even saw a patient. That's quite stunning. Now, I trust my doctor, and I trust what my doctor has said. He's highly skillful, he's quite an academic, and he would certainly have no reason to lie to me specifically. And I asked him specifically, why aren't you going for the money? And he kind of laughed at me and he said, because I have ethics. And I was like, well, yeah, that's the right answer, isn't it? So there you have it. Your public-private partnership masquerading as capitalism while getting every government handout it needs, which is socialism. Socialized capitalism, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what the hell to call it. That's what it is. Now, I would think that that would make you just a little sick to your stomach, but maybe not enough to spend $5,000 at the doctor, right? So at this point, he and I, my doctor and I, had covered a lot of ground on this thing, and I asked him simply, what's the solution? Now, I thought he was espouse some technical doctrine, some mathematical equation, and all forms of mechanically based solutions that any pragmatist would give. But this was his answer: accountability. That was it. Accountability. Now, of course, I was shocked that an academic would give such an esoteric and altogether human answer to this kind of complex situation. But immediately I said, oh my God, that's exactly the kind of platform that I'm running on: accountability. At that point, we all nodded, him and I both nodded in agreement, because we understood what so many people either don't or can't. And that is that before any step is taken towards solving any problem, you have to begin with the human condition. You have to trust those who may solve collective ills with a belief that they possess the necessary attributes to achieve those goals. Pragmatism, mechanics, academics, intellect, all of these are absolutely necessary components to solving any issue, but none of them are primary. Dominant over all these elements is the intangible aspect of humanity itself. Now, this is something that not only do I understand, but in so much as we are sensing a new social, political, industrial, technological, and artistic reality, ultimate respect for the human species will constitute the foundation all other considerations will be constructed upon. It has to be that simple. To me, the future does not look left and right. It does not look blue and red. It looks like people telling those who serve them under an umbrella of accountability and scrutiny exactly what they want. And that's why I'm running independently. As George Galloway, the recent MP in Rochdale, UK, puts it, the left and right have become two cheeks of the same arse. Politics at this point has become as homogenized as basically culture itself. There is a new generation poised to fight for their autonomy, their unique self, their communities, and each other. There is a grand conversation emerging, and I want to be there for it. And if necessary, I will lead it. Of course, you know I'm running for mayor in 2025 because I know that we, the people, the proletariat, the demos, the working class, the artistic class, whatever you want to call yourself, are far more powerful, intuitive, intellectual, open, honest, and capable than, number one, we ever believe ourselves to be, or two, that we have given too much credit and power away to those who don't deserve it. Our inner resistance, that part of us that doesn't want to move, doesn't want to act, is the brutal dictator that keeps us bound to meaningless internet diatribes, a meme culture that is too lazy to come up with a creation of its own, and it justifies our inaction with the misbelief that we can't change a thing. So let's deal with that which keeps us internally confined and ignorant, and then let's engage. Thank you.